All right, we are live. Nobody in here yet, but we are live. I'll just start talking and hopefully we get someone in here to interact with. So today we are doing street epistemology. I've got the topic up there. What street epistemology is a method that anyone can use to evaluate beliefs. And the reason I like this method better than, say, debating is because when you are debating, you're defending a proposition. You are kind of digging your heels in and trying to protect it. And that's not quite the same thing as evaluating it. So if you're defending a proposition, that's because you have at some point either evaluated it or held it. And so during that debate, there's not going to be much actual evaluation. When we do street epistemology, you'll actually have a chance, you'll actually become a participant in the evaluation of your beliefs. No Phil Bro Arguments, please says, can you interview my beliefs? Sure. Send a guest request. Just hit that icon down there, the little pink and blue people, and send a request, and I'll bring you up, and I would love to interview your beliefs. Oh, you can't guest right now. Can I do it in chat? That's fine. If not, I'll say until we have a guest request, I can interview you through the comment section. That's fine. But if you would do me a solid while you're in there and tap on the screen, share, repost, whatever, kind of get it out there and we get a conversation. But yeah, I'm comfortable doing it through the chat as long as we don't have like a face-to-face conversation to have. Yeah, no problem. So yeah, tell me about a belief you would like interviewed. We out here today doing street epistemology. And as the prompt says, I will interview your beliefs for 5 minutes. My goal is not to tell you anything or convince you of anything or give you a message of any sort. All I want to do is ask you about your beliefs. So I'm not here to preach to you or ridicule you or bash you or make you feel less for holding the beliefs that you have. I just want to understand the beliefs.
Or change what you think.
And let me see here. If I'm interviewing you, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring my scenes up and I'm going to turn the timer on.
Okay.
All right, let's do that. There we go. There's our 5-minute timer. Okay, so your belief is that modal logic is sound. Okay. Can you explain what modal logic is and how you've come to the belief that it is sound? And again, guys, right now I'm doing a 5-minute interview with No Field Bro Arguments, please, in the chat, because we have no one sending a guest request and having a face-to-face conversation. And so this is how we're kicking things off tonight. And then in the interim, while I'm waiting for responses in the chat, just to explain what we're doing, again, street epistemology is a method anyone can use to evaluate beliefs without debate, without bashing, without anything like that. It's an actual conversation where the believer is a participant in evaluating their beliefs, the reasons for believing it, how strongly they believe it, etc. So No Phil Bro Arguments has asked to be interviewed through the chat, shared the belief that modal logic is sound. I have asked what modal logic is and how they came to believe that it is sound. Welcome in, Mr. T. Welcome in, Matt. So No Phil Bro Arguments, please, says, I think modal logic is the study of deductive behavior of the expressions necessary or possible. And you came to that conclusion through deduction. Okay, so if I understand you correctly, you're saying that through a deductive process, you've come to believe that necessary or possible, these are expressions, both necessary and possible are expressions, and you're studying their deductive behavior. Um, or your belief is that modal logic is the study of deductive behavior of the expressions necessary or possible. Let's see here. It's a bit hard to express more since there's a text limit. Yeah, I understand. It is very difficult to do street epistemology through the comment section. I'm not going to lie. It's a lot more difficult. But it's what we got. So if you want your beliefs interviewed, then send a guest request and I'll bring you right up. Also, like the timer is difficult, right? When it's chatting, because I can easily cover a question and some nuance in it. But then when it's texting, there's that delay process and it's kind of wrecked. But if you have a belief that you would like interviewed for 5 minutes where I only ask questions, I don't try to convince you of anything or ridicule you or make you feel less, then this is the space for you. That's right, Phil Bro. I can't call you Phil Bro. You're specifically asking them not. So no Phil Bros. No Phil Bros. We tried. But yeah, if so while we're waiting here, I'll just cancel out this. No, I think Phil Bro. I think it's no Phil Bro. It's going to be. It's going to be, I think, too difficult to do this through the chat. I think my optimism was excessive. All right, welcome in L. Ron Thuggard. I love that username. That's hilarious. Welcome in Kaz. If you have a belief you would like interviewed, then send a guest request. With street epistemology, it's a method anyone can use to evaluate beliefs. It's basically now we know through the future not to it's not a debate, but not to try to have this particular conversation through the chat. You're right. But yeah, it's basically the application of the Socratic method of questioning on a belief, but in a way that doesn't require you to understand what the Socratic method of questioning is. So yeah, Nate, if you have a belief you would like interviewed, send a request. And thank you for the compliment. The Macaulay Tucker show. Okay. It took me a second to read that. Thank you for the compliment. And we do have a request from the Macaulay Tucker show. So come on up.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. For TikTok terms of service, can I make sure you are at least 18?
Of course, I'm 20 years old.
Awesome. And pronouns or prefer not to say?
He, him, I guess.
Okay. Awesome. And do you have a belief you would like interviewed tonight?
Sure. There's a lot that I could pick.
Okay.
I'm trying to pick an interesting one. How about this is like a very interesting. I'll pick like a simple one. I'll make my belief claim is I think not many young people specifically dedicate a lot of time in their younger years to developing different skills, specifically by doing. In failing to do this, I feel as if these young individuals, when they grow older, are rushing to educate themselves on certain topics that they find fascinating.
Okay. All right. And I'll explain how this works. I'm going to set a timer. It's going to be a 5-minute timer because
Sure.
I want to respect your time. Now, I don't want you to feel rushed. If you still want to continue after the timer expires, you are more than welcome, but I want to respect your time.
Sure.
So if I understand correctly, and let me bring this timer up. If I understand correctly, your belief is that young people are not, or generally not, or a good number, maybe a majority of young people are not taking time to develop certain essential skills, leading them to sort of rush and get more surface level understanding when they're older. Is that a correct characterization of your belief?
Yeah, I would say I find it specifically that I won't say all because that would probably be a little bit of an inappropriate statement, but I would say that I have found in my personal existence that many of the young individuals that I interacted with at a younger age did not occupy the time that they had with that, except perhaps maybe at school and in clubs. It wasn't necessarily a priority for them.
Okay, so you kind of touched on where I would have asked next, which was like how you came to understand or came to have this belief. And you've stated that due to the interactions you've had with young people, the majority of the young people that you personally have run into have had this problem. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I won't say it's necessarily maybe a problem, but it was more like, well, maybe it is a problem because I have been throughout the conversation painting it as I think it's a negative thing that they have, and I would say it's something that I think they would greatly benefit from if they do it. They don't necessarily have to, but I find that I found that me being older and 20, I'm very thankful that 15-year-old Macaulay dedicated himself to actively interviewing people from Hollywood, because then it became to influence my interviewing abilities.
Okay. So you were able to, or part of what developed this belief is seeing a contrast between the way that you educated yourself as a young person and how it paid off. And then you've had interactions with young people who haven't had such, who haven't done such a thing. And you see that contrast. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay. Now, is there a reason you think that this is occurring? Like you've already acknowledged that you can't say it's a majority or most. You don't really know what the actual statistics are for young people as a whole. But for the ones that you have personally seen not experiencing this beneficial thing, that thing that was beneficial for you, what factors do you think contribute to that?
That is a great question. There can be listed probably a ton of different reasons. Part of me thinks at a younger age, you aren't really interested necessarily in hard work. I mean, I won't say that all, but I know farmers and individuals that were raised by farmers who are some of the most hardworking individuals. But, it seemed to me that hard work wasn't necessarily something that a 15-year-old yearned for. 15-year-old me individuals at least were likely not thinking about future them, maybe. I mean, when you're younger, you think about your future, but you weren't thinking of what can I do now to benefit my future self.
I see. All right. And so in asking what factors would contribute to this difference, you sort of appealed to the general statement that like maybe a 15-year-old doesn't, just on average, isn't as likely to be thinking about long-term consequences. But for whatever reason, in your personal experience, you were able to sort of see that future at the time?
Correct. Yes. I a little bit. Part of me yearned for my personal experience. Part of me yearned to be in the entertainment industry. But after being kind of steered in a different direction, I wanted to find another possible way. And so that was through the direct interviewing of people from Hollywood in hopes that future me might find myself in that situation. Okay. Though I will admit I likely wasn't thinking too hard about it and wasn't maybe thinking strategically enough. But that's what I was thinking at 15.
Okay. And I guess a final question is I'd ask you, what factors in your life personally contributed to your ability to prepare for your future in this way?
Wonderful question. I started high school several months before COVID, and I started online high school here in Canada. And when COVID started, it became this force around where it's like you're isolated in your home. And so I had undoubtedly a lot of free time on my hands. So after school, I could kind of do whatever I want. Unfortunately, people weren't out and about. So when you're left with yourself for a period of time, you begin to tinker and try new things. Okay. And so I was given a lot of time after high school classes to research, find people I want to speak to, email, send another email if they don't respond, and grow with that.
Okay, so are you suggesting that it was the time factor that enabled you to do this? And do you think that if other young people were given more time opportunity, that they would sort of have a greater chance to evaluate where they are and where they're going?
That's a wonderful question. I would say it's a mix of things. As I mentioned earlier, I was presented with the opportunity to do online high school. My parents wanted us to do it, and I found it fine. I wasn't mad or anything. And so it was a mix of likely time and being put into online high school. COVID was the time, and I think online high school was the situation. Thinking of individuals that went to public school, I can imagine that it likely wasn't as flexible as my situation with things being due and deadlines and homework. You would likely be fighting very, very hard to do perhaps what I was doing at 15 if you were in public school at 15.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Is there anything else you're burning to communicate about it, or how was this conversation for you?
This conversation has been very unique. I have really enjoyed it. I don't know many individuals that do this. I really appreciate the questions that you asked. I've appreciated the tone that you've asked them, and this has been surprisingly a very unique experience. One is which that I think that I should try to understand in my personal life.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, if you want to know more about street epistemology, follow me. A really good resource, someone better than me that teaches this really well, is Anthony Magnabosco on YouTube. If you just go to YouTube and search street epistemology, you will get a good bit of rundown on the method. And with stuff like this, where it's sort of like just kind of personal experience and it's not like there's not a lot of emotional investment in it, it's one thing. But like when it gets to starts talking about people's personal beliefs that are like very deeply held and strong, religious beliefs, political beliefs, self-beliefs, it can get really, really interesting, especially when you see things that would normally create a strong emotional response actually are peaceful. So is one of the things that amazes me about it. But I got a couple other people requesting here, and I really appreciate you coming up.
Thank you so much. Take care and have a great day.
All right, you as well. All right, let's bring Nate up here. All right, Nate, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing fantastic.
Well, that's fantastic for TikTok. That sounds like a different website. For TikTok,
Right.
terms of services, okay, I'm going to restart. 1 second.
Yes, sir, I am 18.
Thank you. All right. And pronouns or prefer not to say?
Oh, yeah, just he, him.
Okay, cool. And is there a belief you want to interview tonight?
Oh, man, over the past year, I've been really getting into philosophy a lot, and there's a lot I could discuss. I think one of the most interesting things that I'm actually thinking might be true is that we don't have free will.
Ooh, I would love to interview you on this. Okay, so how I do it, I'm going to set a 5-minute timer. This timer is just for me to respect your time. I'm offering you a 5-minute conversation, but if you want to continue talking after the 5 minutes, feel free. So I don't want you to feel rushed. All right.
Okay.
5 minutes gives you a good out of the conversation, but it is not a mandated out. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn on this timer here. Okay. All right. So your belief is that we do not have free will. Is that correct?
Now, I will go ahead and clarify. I don't know if I fully believe that, but I am starting to dive deeper into the idea, and I'm going to basically argue as if I did believe that, but I'm not 100% on that boat.
Okay, so on a scale of like 0 to 10, where 10 is I am absolutely convinced and nothing will ever change my mind, and 0 is like I'm completely spitballing, I have no idea, where would you rate your level of confidence in this positive claim that there is no free will?
Well, I'd say either a 6 or a 7, but that really depends on what your definition of free will is. Because depending on what your definition is, then we absolutely do have free will. But if you define free will as basically if you were able to do something different, as in I choose to go in the kitchen and get a glass of water. Now, if I were to go back in time, was it possible that I go in and I choose to do anything differently than that?
Okay. All right. So Oh, I'm sorry. I got to stop stepping on the pauses. I will stop stepping on
It's
the
okay.
pauses. All right.
I'm not good at this. I might need a minute to gather my thoughts.
Hey, take your time. And again, the timer is just a way to respect your time.
Right.
So when it comes to your disbelief in free will, this is based on the idea that, like, if you could rewind time and play it back again, the same factors that were there initially would be there again, and then those factors would drive you to make the same decision. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Right.
Okay, can you give me an example of what some of these constraining factors are that would eliminate the freedom of will?
I would say that any choice you ever make in your entire life will either be because you were forced to do it or because you wanted to do it. And whenever I say you wanted to do it, I mean in the moment, that is what you want to do the most. Like going to the gym, for example, I hear a lot of people say, well, I don't really want to go to the gym, but I do it anyways. But you want to be healthier, so then you go to the gym anyway. So you still want to go to the gym, even though that it might not bring you, dopamine and make you super happy. That is still what you want to do. And the part where whether you have free will or not comes in is, do you have control over what you want? Because if it's true that I will always do what I want to do the most in any given situation, given all of the inputs that I have in the situations that I've been in my experience, then I'm sorry, I forgot what I just said. Let me retract.
No problem. Take your time.
If it's true that I will always do what I want to do in any given situation, then what really matters is if I'm able to control those wants. And I don't think that I am able to control those wants. As in, I can't choose to just want something different.
I see. Interesting. So let's use an example. We'll say go eat a burger versus go to the gym. Go eat a burger.
Right.
You want to do that because you're it's salty and delicious and hot and greasy and filling and but then go to the gym you also want to do in a way. But you're saying that in any given moment, the decision that you make is based on what you most wanted in the moment that decision was made.
Right.
Okay. Can you think of any examples where what you do isn't what you want to do most, but where you're also not being forced or constrained?
Not really. That's why I'm starting to maybe start to subscribe to this idea, because I don't think, and I think it also really depends, like I said earlier, what you mean by want. Because whenever I say, what I want the most in any given moment, it doesn't just mean what will bring me the most amount of joy. Because in that example that you gave earlier, like a burger versus going to the gym, it probably would bring me more joy to go and eat a burger. But that doesn't mean that that is what I objectively want.
All right.
And you need...
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to ask you if there's different kinds of wants, like short-term immediate gratification versus delayed gratification for a greater reward later. Is that
Yes, definitely. Yeah, there would be different types of wants.
all right? Is there anything you could identify that would make you more or less confident in this belief?
I would say if it's possible to get, I would say a really good example kind of towards the idea of this is twins, identical twins. Even though they don't have the exact same experiences, they are two different separate people. A lot of the time, they like similar things, they have similar thoughts, they subscribe to similar ideas. Not always, but identical twins usually do. I think if it would ever be possible to do some sort of experiment where we can raise two people the exact same way in the exact same family and they have the exact same inputs, if we could ever see, is it possible for that person to make a different decision than whatever they did make, that would, I would say that would break the idea free will. That would help and enforce the idea that we do.
So if I understand correctly, what you're saying is because all the factors you can identify that go into making a decision, you cannot identify any factors where there is an actual free control, but that it's always compelled by a combination of factors beyond our control.
Right. Like you can kind of think of the brain in this way as like a computer, and it just has inputs. And whenever I say, do we have free will, I don't mean like, if you ask me, do I want to go to the burger? Do I want to go get a burger? Or do I want to go to the gym? And then you ask some other guy the same question, will we pick the same thing? Because of course, in that moment, in that context of free will, yes, we can pick two different things and we can choose to go do what we want. But it's, if the same person with the same thoughts and the same experiences say the exact same inputs, basically just a copy, a clone, could those two copies make a different choice, or would they always have to choose the same thing because that's what they want most? And I think that if you have another person with all the exact same inputs and it's basically just a clone, I think in any given scenario, those two people would always choose the same thing.
I see. So you're saying that like if we have two different people, but we're able to create the exact same inputs for both of them. What would space and time be part of those inputs?
What do you mean by space and time?
So like an event happens to two people. Is standing over here, one person is standing over there. Do they get different inputs?
Okay. Yes, no. So whenever I say the same inputs, I mean literally the exact same situations and experiences, like down to the time, the place, the emotion that they were feeling when it happened, like literally every input sensory thing that you could feel in the moment of any moment, all be the same. So it's basically just a clone of the same person where all the inputs are the same. I don't think that those two clones, the two people, could ever choose anything different. I think that they would always come to the same conclusion, and that, to me at least, kind of helps the idea that free will does not exist, because that's the same person and they are not able to choose anything differently.
Okay. That's very interesting. My final question, I guess I want to ask how like this would work with maybe chaos theory. So my question is, if I rewound the universe and then played it again, would it always be the same, or does quantum indeterminacy create difference? And if that difference would occur, would that difference make any difference? Would that have any implications for free will?
So you're asking me if the universe would have been created differently, right?
No, just rewinding. Where
just
it unfolds
rewinding
differently because of some quantum indeterminacy. If it were to unfold differently, would that have any implications for free will, or would it still be constrained just with different inputs?
I don't know. I've never thought about that. I would probably lean to it would still be constrained just with different inputs, but I would have to look more into that because I don't know. I've never thought about that.
That is a perfectly respectable answer, and I appreciate that. Was it good for you?
It was good for me. Thank you for this conversation.
All right. It was good for me, too. I appreciate it very much. Give me a follow, and let's do it again sometime. Oh, do you mind if I say something real quick? Oh, yeah, please.
I just want to clarify my point a little bit. Now, whenever I say that even if I don't believe free will objectively exists, I will say practically, I absolutely do believe it exists. Like we should still arrest a murderer for murdering somebody. We're not going to, say, well, he couldn't have helped it, so he had to do that. So, he's free. He's not guilty of it. I still believe practically in everyday life that free will does exist, and we should absolutely treat it as it does.
If I understand you correctly, you're saying that regardless of whether or not will is free, accountability is independent of free will.
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, I like that. I'm not supposed to say that.
All right.
Epistemology, but yeah, awesome. I appreciate the clarification. But yeah,
Okay.
thanks for coming up. We're going
Thank
to go on
you.
to the next.
All right. Thank you for your time.
That was a lot of fun. That was fun with Nate. All right, Hale. Come on up. Hale Lucifer.
Just call
Hale
me
Lucifer.
Lucifer.
I accepted your request. Oh, Hale is gone. Oh, come on. You were in the comments doubting whether you could come and talk, and I'm trying to give you space. Must have just missed you by that much. Oh, Hale's back. Hale, I accepted your request, but I guess it was a second too late. Go ahead and request it again if you're still interested in having a belief interviewed. You wanted to talk to the guest. Okay, I generally only do one-on-one interviews, and here's why. I don't do debates here. I used to, and I like debate, but for this space, I don't want it to become a debate. I want this to be street epistemology. Now, if you want to do street epistemology with the guest, I'd allow that. But I don't want to debate between two guests. I don't want to do that. But like if you do have a belief that is different than his or opposed to his, and you would like me to interview you on that, I would love to do that. Wickerman, yes, I am an Anthony Magnabosca fan. He is the guy that has really popularized street epistemology. I've been a fan of his for years, but didn't really take the method seriously in my own personal life. I spent more time just trying to like intellectually stick it to theists because of my religious trauma and deconstruction. And that was fun for a while, but I decided to do something that's actually helpful and start applying the method. So only in the last month or so, I've done this pivot. And honestly, I just keep kicking myself for not doing it sooner. Nate says, I'd be down, but I respect it either way. All right. I mean, y'all can DM each other if you want, but if it's just going to be like a debate between you guys, I don't want to do that because we're doing street epistemology. I'm interviewing beliefs. But Hale, you can have the floor. You can dominate this space. I've got no problem listening to you, learning from you. I learn from anybody. But I'm definitely interested in having a conversation. Let me go ahead and summarize what street epistemology is while we're waiting for another guest request. Street epistemology is a way to do epistemology that doesn't require you to be an expert. That's what the street is. It's the application of the Socratic method of questioning to a conversation without having to know what the Socratic method of questioning is. It is a way for people to become participants in the evaluation of their beliefs instead of defenders of their beliefs. We have this cognitive bias called the backfire effect. It's a well-known phenomenon in psychology. The backfire effect is what happens when you feel like you have to defend something. As soon as you have to defend something, protect it, it becomes more precious and serious to you. You'll actually believe it more strongly. So we don't do debate here because this isn't a space where I want you to become more entrenched in your beliefs. This is a space where I invite you to evaluate your beliefs with me. So I'm not going to ridicule you, preach to you, tell you you're wrong, or try to communicate any message to you. I'm just going to ask questions. All right, we got a request from Fascioy. Fascioy? My kid is correcting me in the back.
What's up?
Hey, Fascioy. I think you've been here before, and pretty sure you're over 18.
Yeah, I'm 21.
All right, and if I recall, pronouns he, him?
I don't know, but we haven't talked before. I've just been in the comments.
Oh, okay, so we've only talked in the comments. Okay, so pronouns you prefer not to say.
I don't care. I'm a guy, so I'm he, him.
He, him, perfect. And do you have a belief you want interviewed tonight?
Yeah. I would like to know your opinion on like my theory of like black holes and stuff and gravity.
Okay, so you want me to interview your beliefs regarding black holes and gravity?
Yeah.
Okay, so how this works is I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes, and this isn't a restrictive timer. In other words, when the timer runs out, we can continue discussing if you'd like. But I'm setting that 5 minutes to respect your time and give you an out if you just want this to be a quick thing.
Perfect. I don't have that much to say. It's pretty simple, my theory, but
Okay. So, well, here, let me ask you about it. What is your belief about black holes and gravity that you want interviewed?
so the first thing like I want to explain is that I think that gravity comes from things that aren't perfect, you know? So like if something was perfect, like it would have no need to spin, so it just wouldn't spin.
So, gravity comes from perfect things, and if
From
if you
unperfect things.
oh, from imperfect things. Okay, that's my
Yeah.
mistake. Thank
And
you.
then yep.
So gravity comes from imperfect things, and this is why things spin.
In a way, yes. But yeah. But space is always relative, so it's weird. It doesn't quite work like this.
All right, so let's try to pin this down to an example. Let's say a rotating, well, let's say rotating planet like the Earth, and you're saying the Earth is rotating because it's imperfect and because of gravity.
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit about the mechanism of this, or at least how you came to this understanding?
Of course. So, there's a couple ways I can explain it, but okay. So let's just talk in dimensions. All right. So the first dimension, I could possibly only link left and right. Would you agree with that?
Sorry, camera guy was doing some things. Sorry, could you repeat
It's
the
all good.
question? I was distracted by the issue.
So in a one-dimensional world, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is left and right only. Correct?
In a one-dimensional world, there is left and right only. Like there's one axis of movement
Yep.
along that line. Yes, in a one-dimensional world, that would be correct.
Then in a two-dimensional world, which we could look at and interpret as any kind of map. Have you ever heard of like the coloring theory, which is like you can color in any map where each section of the map, no colors will ever be touching, and you only ever need 4 colors as long as it's two-dimensional. There is no configuration that needs more than 4 colors for all 4 colors never to touch, like the same color to touch.
Right. Yeah, and there's a bunch of different ways to do it, and that applies specifically to 2D material like a plane. All right.
Then after that, in a third dimensional, like it's a perspective infinity, right? Because obviously we're not in the 4th dimension yet, which is all of the dimensions, I guess. Kind of nuts. Because 4th dimension is time, of course. Even though time is not real, this is a big thing in my theory because time isn't real, because to get to point A to point B, from point A to point B, you first have to go halfway. And then to get to halfway, you first have to go halfway of that, and then halfway of that, before ever getting anywhere.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, you're saying that, well, one, you're giving this example of like the color mapping. You said one-dimensional is only left and right, two-dimensional, you have a plane, and in this kind of dimension, you can color it with 4 colors in a way where
No, it wouldn't be. In the 4th dimension, it would be 8, which would be really insane. But it's kind of like a weird. I don't know what would happen in an 8 because it doesn't happen. But what does happen is, do you know the 6 degrees of separation?
6 degrees of separation between what? Are you talking about like in a coordinate frame?
No. So this is it's called a small world network, and basically it's not a theory. It's a proven,
you're talking about
published
like
scientific
the degrees
paper.
of degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? Like
I think so.
where you're only up to 6 connections away from any other
Yes.
person on Earth. Okay.
Yes. So this is what I think happens in the 3-dimensional world within a perspective infinity, right?
A 3-dimensional world, you're saying you have the same phenomenon where every point in space-time is within 6 hops from another point?
Yep, I guess. But
So there's no direct line between any 2 given points?
well, No, everything has to be local. Everything has to be its own local thing.
Right, but when we're talking about degrees of separation, what does it mean for 2 points to have a degree of separation in your belief here?
Oh, well, that's not really important. It's just like a way to frame the complexity of every single time we add on like a new layer, right? Because the third the like 3D,
Mm-hmm.
it's different than 2D and 1D is what I'm saying, which
Yeah, there's
is
an
like
extra.
how we're yeah. And I'm trying to say like after like a little bit like you can't keep going because it's limited. So
So right. So it's like you limit the number of dimensions in the topic. Say we're talking about our 4-dimensional universe. The limit, based on what you're talking about, is just like the number of dimensions or the number of degrees of separation. I'm having a tough time following what you are trying to communicate. So that
so
could
I think
go,
everything is triangles.
you think everything is triangles.
Every single point in time and space
Every single point in space
is built on a triangle.
is built on a triangle. Okay, could you explain how you came to that?
So everything is its own vertex, like vertice, and then they're all connected and form triangles. And then the gravity of things that are not perfect causes some of these triangles. This is actually proven. I've seen this, like I researched it, but some of these triangles are subsequent. So they're the same triangles that kind of fall and succumb to the gravity. Unless there's of course it has to be like nowhere. It has to be nowhere so that there's no other effects like affecting it.
I got to
But
tell you, I'm not sure I'm following well enough to ask a question on this. I feel like this needs to be formalized in a way that that someone new to the subject could be brought in, and I'm not sure if I'm able to establish that with you. And,
all right, that's okay. Anyways,
yeah.
the only thing I wanted to add to the last thing was that when perfect things can no longer move, they move from triangles, which are connected by 3 points, into a 4-point connection that basically we're dead right now and we're living after we die, like the universe.
All right. Well, if you can find a way to formalize that, I'd love to discuss it. Do you ever tune into Dr. Blitz lives?
Nope.
I highly recommend it. He does Ask a Physicist, and these are the sorts of conversations he specializes in. So,
I'll probably just laugh at me, but I don't know.
I mean, maybe, he comes with he's a physics doctorate, and that's going to come with some snark, perhaps. But maybe he can help you formalize this a little bit or find some catch points where it doesn't line up.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming up very much. All righty. Let's bring in Chi-Chi, I think is next. And welcome in, Chi-Chi. Can I ask for TikTok terms of service if you are at least 18?
Yes, I am. And street epistemology, the lost art.
The lost art. I personally think we need more of it. And yeah.
I grew up on the East Coast, and I used to go debates the Hebrew Israelites on the streets, and there were a lot of street epistemologists that would come up and also debate those dudes, and so I got to see how they operated, and it was a live thing, like right on the corner of the block. It was so much fun. So yeah, it's cool that you're keeping it alive, man. Like I super respect it.
Hey, I appreciate that, and I have to say, like Crystal Joy just gift spammed me. So Crystal, thank you so much. Oh my goodness, I appreciate that more than you know. That's amazing. I appreciate. All right, pronouns or prefer not to say.
No, I'll say I'm he him.
He him. Okay, and do you have a belief you'd like interviewed, or do you want to kind of just discuss street epistemology?
I mean, you're the boss, but I am a Christian. I'm a mainliner. I'm a Methodist Christian. So yeah, if you want to ask me questions, or I can ask you questions, however you want to work it, sir. You're the boss. It's your life.
All right, dealer's choice, huh?
Well, yeah, you're the boss.
Yeah, well, I'm here to interview beliefs, so why don't we start with that? And tell you what, I'll set a 5-minute timer. I'll ask you beliefs, or I'll ask you questions about your belief. We can continue along that vein past the 5 minutes if you'd prefer. But if you would prefer to switch and you start asking me questions, we can do that as well. How does that sound?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Awesome. So I'll bring the timer up here. Here we are. Okay. All right. So give me a belief. You said you're a Christian. Do you have a particular specific belief in that you want interviewed?
So, my particular belief is I'm Methodist, so I abide by the Wesleyan quadrilateral. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to discuss like belief in God in general, or like your denominational affiliation?
Well. So I believe both in God, and I also believe in my denominational affiliation. But yeah, I mean I'm theist, but I do abide by the Christian denomination of United Methodist, which follows the Wesleyan quadrilateral.
All right. Usually, when asking about like God beliefs or denominational beliefs, I'll usually be more interested in asking about the God one because it's more foundational.
Sure.
Is that fair?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. So, what if you were to rate your confidence that God exists from 0 to 10? Oh, I got a hit. I must have. Thank you. I think that's my first one. Oh, thank you, Crystal. Oh man, I'm just blown away.
Go.
All right, sorry. Okay, so believe in God. 0 being I'm just completely spitballing. I have no idea. I'm just saying things. And 10 being I am so 100% sure that I'm fairly certain nothing will ever dissuade me. What would your level of confidence be?
I'm a 9 out of 10 for the belief in God.
All right, leaving some room for formal incompleteness.
Leaving some room that I could be like hooked up to some sort of device that just throws impulses into my head. I could be a vat. I could be a brain in a vat for all I know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So leaving room for solipsism, essentially.
Okay. Interesting. Are there any factors that would increase your confidence or decrease your confidence in this belief?
If I die and experience the Lord, it would increase my confidence. But I don't know how. Well, so to decrease it, I guess if you could prove I was a brain in a vat, then yeah, it would decrease it.
So anything else than like coming to a conviction that you were a brain in a vat that would decrease your confidence?
Graham Oppie, he's kind of my favorite atheist scholar. He makes a really good sort of like abductive case for atheism. I'm not perfectly convinced yet. I haven't read all of his work, and I haven't been convinced by it as of yet. But if he keeps trugging along, he could convince me, maybe. But I'm still 9/10 of the way there towards theism as opposed to atheism, which he promotes. He promotes atheism. So.
All right. So yeah, I'm not
But
necessarily asking about like what would flip you or convince you, but like what would like bring your 8 down to say a 7.
Well, I know it wouldn't be that. It would be a paradigm shift, to be honest with you. So it wouldn't go down incrementally. If I was going to be an atheist, it would be a whole paradigm shift.
Okay.
So it would go from a 9/10 to like a 1 or a 0. It would be a whole paradigm shift.
Okay. What factors, if any, can you identify that brought you to this conviction that God exists, to this 90%?
Yeah. So classical theism kind of won me over in the beginning. And then like post classical theism, a lot of C.S. Lewis, and then even going further than that, it was really the argument from contingency that sort of won me over. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So like, and that kind of leads into my next question. You made it a little more simple, because I'd ask you like, which of these factors? Ooh, gold gift, thank you. Which of these factors it would be like most important? Where if this factor went away, the other ones would leave you with like a much lower confidence. And you said the argument from contingency is sort of
That's what I would argue. Yeah, you're right. It would be the argument if someone could disprove the argument from contingency, I would probably still be at a 9 out of 10, but I would you had whittled away my front armor. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't address the whole armor of God at once. So let's. That was a joke. I know it doesn't. But
no, good. It was very punny.
All right. Well, I'm a former Christian, so I've got all kinds of Bible puns.
No, it was a good joke. It was a good pun. It was a good pun.
All right.
No, I loved it.
All right.
But
So
I
the argument from
that way at all.
contingency. Do you want to explain what gives that kind of strength to your belief from that argument?
So there's entire books written about it. For a TikTok version, it's this whole idea that like everything that we experience in our life is contingent on something else. And in order to avoid an infinite regress, you would need something that's like necessary. And by the way, for any causal power to occur throughout all of the forward contingencies, you still need that necessary, whatever you want to call it. What I would call that necessary being, entity, whatever, I would call that God. So that's kind of a really, really fundamental 101 TikTok version of what the argument for contingency means.
All right. Okay, so if I understand you correctly, this argument from contingency and the thing that grips you about it is that like everything we observe has some kind of contingency, is contingent on some necessary thing or some other contingent thing. And if we want to avoid this sort of like infinite regress of contingency, where contingency just goes all the way back temporally, structurally, whatever.
Logically is the way I like to. I don't like to use the word temporal. I like to use the word logically. It's a logical infinite regress.
Okay. So like if we want to avoid that, the analogy I like to use is like the like an infinite regress of turtles. Do you know what the turtles all the way down comment? I'm sure you do.
Well, I know the book by Mr. Green.
O'Brien Green?
Yeah, turtles all the way down.
The Elegant Universe?
No, I'm talking about the fiction author.
Yeah. Not Brian Green.
John Green.
John Green. Oh, John Green. Okay.
Yeah, turtles all the way down.
It's an old apocryphal
they made a movie
story.
About it.
Robert Sapolsky talks about it in his book Determined as
well.
Yeah,
and he wrote the book. I'm a huge fan of him on everywhere. And they also made a movie about it, Turtles All the Way Down. Like, yeah. But nonetheless.
So you're familiar. So if we're to avoid this sort of situation where it's turtles all the way down, we need to posit like a first turtle, a primary or foundational turtle, whether that's a first cause, first motion, first foundation of being. Is that correct?
Yeah. The first logically necessary. Yes.
Okay. So I guess my next question is, what motivates this sort of a priori neglect or rejection of infinite regress? What motivates that?
Oh, I believe that temporally you could posit a B theory of time and posit an infinite temporal regress. What I don't see as logical is sticking with B theory, sticking with block theory of time, how you could get logically an infinite regress. Because the problem is you have nothing that has any sort of causality. Nothing has any causal power. And that's where I think there's a huge problem. So that's why I am a big proponent of the contingency argument, logically, not temporally, logically, because you have no causal power without a necessary being.
All right. Okay. So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that the reason we should reject an infinite regress, unless we have this one edge case you said, like with the B theory of time and sort of like a temporal regress, you can kind of see that. But you said the reason otherwise that we would reject a eternal regress, or an infinite regress, I should say, is because with an infinite regress, there is no causal power. Is that correct?
Precisely, but it's logic. It's not temporal, right? I think it's possible to have a temporal regression, but I don't think it's possible to have a logical regression.
Okay.
That's where I make a big distinction there.
All right.
Yeah,
So when you say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm stepping on the pause.
No, go. I cut you off. Go.
When you say then that like infinite regress of atemporal causes has no causal power, what do you mean by that?
So essentially what I'm meaning is that, like, let's say I want ice cream, right? My desire to want ice cream is caused by the lack of sugar in my body. But the lack of sugar in my body is caused by the fact I didn't eat enough sugar. And the lack of me eating enough sugar is caused by the fact there wasn't enough sugar for me to eat. So you can keep bringing all of this back as causes, but none of them are giving me causal power. None of them is starting the chain.
Okay, so what you mean by causal power, you mean something needs to start the chain. And you're saying that the reason we reject infinite regress is because there's no start to the regress.
Precisely. Because you can just claim it. So, like, me wanting sugar. Well, okay, cool. I want sugar. I go get sugar. But that's not... I didn't cause that. Something else began that. But that didn't cause it. Something else began that moment. But that didn't cause it. Something else began that. And you can take that back infinitely if you want to. I think it's impossible to claim that there's any causal power in the universe if you're just going to constantly claim that it goes back infinitely. You don't have any, like, cause. There's no causal power.
Okay.
Everything is contingent off of the last moment. They didn't cause. So you need something that's necessary. I would call that necessary God.
Okay. I think now is a good time to kind of stop and assess maybe some semantics. The reason is, and I know you know this, so by explaining this, please don't feel like I'm insulting your intelligence. I'm saying it for the sake of anyone watching now live or later the recording. When it comes to like the meaning of the word cause, like in my mind, a cause is like an event that is prior to an effect, like an event that is directly associated with the subsequent thing, whether that's a temporal subsequence or like a structural, functional consequence. So does this differ from your understanding of causation?
Yeah, so you can use those words. What I mean by it is that it starts an event. That's what I mean by cause, is that it starts an event. Okay?
Okay.
So like, let's say I'm hungry.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I didn't eat. That's not what started the event. I didn't eat because my body needs food. And then I need food because I was evolved from creatures who eat. Where is the cause? Like, so like essentially it doesn't actually cause the event. You're dealing with a chain of events,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not dealing with the actual, like what I would say, cause.
Okay, so let me try to bring this around. So when you say event, like say you use the example of the event of feeling hungry, you're saying that that event isn't a finite thing, that it has its root back in some initial cause, right?
As long as you disagree with an infinite regression, yes, it does have some sort of cause in the background. Yes.
Okay, so
Far enough down the line.
okay.
And then if you're going to say that it infinitely regresses, well, then there was no cause.
Yeah, no first cause. An infinite regression, as I understand it, would mean that there are causes, but each cause is like spatiotemporally local or some kind of like structural, functional, foundational.
I mean cause in in contrast to something contingent, right? So if I'm hungry because I didn't eat, I'm only hungry. That hunger is contingent on the fact that I didn't eat.
Right. And you're looking for a
cool.
base.
And then I didn't eat, and that was contingent on the fact there was no food. Mm-hmm. You can take this all the way back, right? You need something that begins it, that needs some sort of causal power.
Begins it temporally?
No, logically. That's a big deal.
Okay, so
there was a big movement in Christianity called the Kalam cosmological, which I believed in for a little while, but I have since rejected, which said, hey, everything began with the Big Bang, blah blah blah. Anything that begins to exist has a cause, blah blah. I now accept the scientific consensus that the Big Bang was not the necessary beginning of the universe. So I don't claim to use that any longer, but I still think logical consistency is important. And everything is still contingent on the previous event. Mm-hmm. There's zero causal power. Like nothing is causing it. Like when I say I'm hungry, it's just because I didn't eat. And I didn't eat because there was no food. And there was no food because I lived in the neighborhood I lived in.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
Like there's never a cause.
I'm sorry to cut you off. One of my kids is crying. I got to address this.
No, go ahead. Dude. Yeah.
Little sibling rivalry in the evening. So what you're, and I like the phrase that track of all Jade's said, and that's where I was wanting to go with this. You're looking for like a logical, brute, necessary thing upon which all other things are contingent. Is that correct?
Yeah, because you don't have any causal power anyways. And then Yeah. So that's what kind of convinced me for a theism in general.
Is causal power a property of a necessary thing, or are you using them sort of synonymously?
Well, that would actually kind of be sort of an argument for divine simplicity, which I am kind of on the fence about. If I were to take the position of divine simplicity, I would say, yeah, it is identical to God. Yeah.
Okay. And so I keep
But
coming back
I'm not
to
absolutely
this
certain
question.
Yeah, go
Sorry?
ahead. No, I'm not absolutely certain of divine simplicity yet.
Okay. Yeah, I keep coming back to this question of like, why is there an a priori rejection?
Because you need something. You need something. Because
Why?
otherwise you have no causal power and you have to deal with an infinite regress.
Right. So
And
you're saying,
so like I'll give you the so the outcome of an infinite regress would be that if everything just goes back infinitely, it would take an infinite amount of moments, it would take an infinite amount of contingencies, it would take an infinite amount of time to reach this moment that you and I are having this conversation, which means we would never reach this conversation because it would have taken an infinite amount of time, logical contingencies, blah blah blah.
so
So
if
we would
you
never reach this moment.
if you have an infinite regress of contingencies, that necessarily means you have infinite time, or is all contingency temporal?
No. But it would mean that you would have an infinite amount of contingencies prior to this moment. We would never reach this moment.
Um, even if they were
Logically.
atemporal?
No. We could just say logically you would never reach this moment.
Why is
It would
that?
logically be impossible to reach this moment if it logically took an infinite amount of contingencies to reach this moment.
Why?
Do you know any other way?
Any other way for what? To reach this moment with
For an infinite amount of logical contingencies
Mhm.
for us to gather this moment.
Sure. Atemporal contingencies.
Okay. And how many contingencies would it take to reach this moment?
I feel like this is the spot where we're switching, and now you're asking me questions. Do you want to do that?
I'm so sorry. No. My bad.
All right. Okay. So you're saying that.
That's like the. I do want to just lay this out real quick. That's kind of the layman, without reading a whole book, TikTok version of the argument from contingency.
Mhm.
I think I laid it out half decently. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. No. I guess. Yeah. I was asking why reject infinite regress a priori, and it's not so much that it was a priori. It is that you're saying that it is logically impossible to have an infinite regress. And I try to get to the heart of why it's impossible. And you ask. That's when you kind of turn and ask me if I knew another way.
So there's just no way that this moment could be achieved if there wasn't some sort of causal beginning,
Why is
some
that?
sort of causal power,
Why is that?
because everything would just be a regression infinitely. And by the way, I don't even know how you would justify the infinite regression without some sort of causal power, because they all require causal power.
When you say
Something
causal
would-
power, you don't
something-
mean one moment causing another. You mean necessary existence, right?
Yeah, I do mean logically. So you would need something to establish it, or else like you wouldn't even get here to begin with.
So if it's not established, we reject it a priori.
Would I reject it a priori? I would not reject it a priori. I would need to hear a really good argument against what I'm saying. So no, I don't reject it like it's not a brute fact.
Okay. So it's not necessary.
But I would argue that my personal brute fact would be my necessary entity or being or what I would call God.
Okay.
I would say that's my brute.
All right. So earlier when you said if we want to avoid an infinite regress, we posit this necessary being. And then I asked you what motivates the rejection of this infinite regress. And now I feel like you've clarified and said that you don't really have a motivation to reject it. It's just that you don't know how it would be established, unlike the necessary being position. Is that correct?
100%. And that's why I think when you asked me in the beginning, I was like 9 out of 10.
Okay.
I'm not a 10 out of 10.
Is there anything about the universe that we can observe that would be different in a world where this necessary being is, say, the quantum foam versus God?
So I think quantum mechanics is actually going to change the face of modern philosophy, and I'm waiting on it, and I'm open to its ideas. I think given our knowledge now, where quantum theory is so incredibly debated, and we don't know how to apply it to macroeconomic, we don't know how to apply it. And we have no idea how gravity even plays a role. I'm very curious as to what it will do and change philosophy for the future. So I'm willing and open to change my ideas.
I'm with you on that, but I'm afraid you maybe didn't hear my question or lost it.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Ask it again. I'm so sorry.
So, is there anything about the universe we can observe that would allow us to differentiate between? And I mean what we can observe right now, that would allow us to differentiate between a necessary being quantum foam versus a necessary being God?
Is there any empirically?
Yes.
I think asking questions about God empirically is a categorical error. But I'm not are you asking for a teleological argument? Or I'm not certain.
No, not necessarily. Except in the sense that there would be a distinct telos, or there might, I should say, maybe there might be a distinct telos between the two. Because I'm trying to gauge the reason for the 8 out of 10 certainty, or sorry, 9 out of 10 certainty.
I was 9. Yeah.
To the basis of the 9% certainty, where there is.
Are you asking if there's anything I could perceive in the universe that would make that go down a notch? Is that what you're asking?
Not necessarily. I want to hold your 9 up next to, say, a 5, and where the 5 is okay, there's some necessary eternal.
5 is agnosticism. 5 is agnosticism, right? Yeah.
No, 5 is just it could go either way, but I don't know.
Yeah, so 5, I would argue 5 would be an agnostic, right? And a 9 would be a theist, and a 1 would be an atheist, right?
That sounds about right. So with this is Gnosticism. Are you a Gnostic theist or an agnostic theist?
No, I'm theist.
You are a theist, okay. Well, I've met some agnostic theists or theists that identify as agnostic. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, and they are only on TikTok. They do not appear in the academia. They drive me nuts, man. Are you kidding me? The worst thing. It drives me nuts when I meet atheists online, and they're and I'm an agnostic atheist.
I'm an agnostic atheist. That maybe when we switch and you ask me questions.
I will tell you why that drives me nuts, because
one moment. I don't want to derail the conversation. I do want you to ask me questions about it, but I do really want to hold your 9 up against a 5. So I want to hold your view.
I keep forgetting.
Because an agnostic is someone who doesn't have knowledge. If you claim to have knowledge about this necessary.
No, an agnostic is somebody who withholds opinion.
Agnostic literally means without knowledge, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's an etymological error. Okay. So in academia, when somebody claims to be agnostic, they claim to not hold a position. When somebody claims to be atheistic, they are making the positive claim, no gods exist. And when somebody's claiming to be theistic, they are claiming that God does exist. Now, there's also strong and weak versions of atheism. Now, the weak version of atheism would be, I lack belief. A strong version of atheism is, I make the positive claim. Agnosticism has always been and always will be, at least in the academia, at least in the philosophy of religion, it means I withhold judgment.
All right. Yep. And the reason for withholding judgment is because there's no like certain knowledge, right?
Well, I don't have certain knowledge in God, but I still make the positive claim that God does exist. I can just tell you that it's a 9 out of 10 scale. Like, and that's what normal philosophers do.
But you do say that it is belief, not knowledge, right?
It depends on what you mean by knowledge. If your knowledge is a justified true belief, then yes, I make a justified true belief in the fact that it's a 9 out of 10. Okay. I'm justified in this belief that I have, and I believe this belief is true.
Okay. And the justification you're saying is like the necessary being, right? The contingency argument?
I mean, among others, I just gave you my favorite argument for God.
Well, let's stick with contingency.
Obviously, there's others. Like, I'm a classical theorist, so I mean, you can go the 5 ways, and like I pretty much agree with all of them.
Okay. Now on this contingency one, though, in particular.
Yes.
Because we're still
yes.
So for contingency, if the universe had like a necessary, like something that wasn't contingent at all, but just like a necessariness to it, whether that's energy, quantum foam, whatever. Do you claim knowledge that it is, say, God and not quantum foam, or is this just is this a belief?
So, like, let's just say that, your quantum phone example, it's still contingent on the laws of nature.
Okay.
So I would still claim that it's still contingent on something.
It's contingent
without the laws
on
of nature. Yeah. Without laws of nature that kind of dictate how all of these particles operate and maneuver and how they work around the universe, I would still say they are contingent upon these abstract ideas of laws. Yeah, so I would still call them contingent.
When you say laws of nature, it sounds like you're saying they're prescriptive rather than descriptive. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think we get into a little bit of the weeds there, but yeah, I wouldn't say they're. So you know what? I might argue from one perspective that they're prescriptive, but honestly, what I really want to say is that they're descriptive. They are still described by these arbitrary laws of nature. They still abide by these. They are still contingent on these descriptions of them.
The descriptions are contingent on the phenomena, or the other way around?
Well, they abide by the descriptions.
When you say abide by the descriptions, you're saying, so like, for example, Newton described...
They followed the descriptions, yeah.
But this is because the descriptions were built around observations of the phenomena.
Well, I would argue that as a theist, yeah, but I wouldn't claim that that's a fact.
Well, I would agree with that as an atheist, though. For example, Newton, watches the motion of the heavenly bodies, and he comes up with a mathematical equation that describes what he's seeing, and that description then forms like a prediction. But like only within non-rotating frames, only within certain scales of the universe, because in rotating frames of reference or at certain scales, now those laws are no good. They're wrong. They're incomplete.
That's why Einstein needed to come up with general theory of relativity. Yeah, precisely.
Right. Okay. So these laws, as we understand,
I would argue, they do abide. They are. I don't like using the word prescribe and describe. I don't like using those words, but I would say that they abide by the laws of nature. And I would argue that the only way you can account for the laws of nature would be through God. But I mean, I'm not saying that that's the only way. I've known some atheists who have given really great arguments for the contrary.
Okay, so given that, then when it comes to like the laws of nature, whether they are emergent from the sort of like ontological properties,
I wouldn't even say they're emergent. I say they abide.
I thought you entertained the possibility they were emergent, so perhaps I misunderstood.
I entertain that idea. I do entertain the idea, but that's not what I believe. But okay, if we're going to entertain a different idea, yeah.
But as far as knowledge, as far as like knowledge that you claim to have, it could go either way.
I am as certain as I possibly can be, knowing that I can't be perfectly certain. Yes.
I'm talking about more about knowledge than belief on this.
That's what I mean. My knowledge is what I'm certain of, right? So I can only be as certain as I possibly can be.
Okay.
And yeah, I have justified true belief in what I told you.
Okay.
But going ahead. You go.
Well, I guess I was just trying to get to the bottom of like the basis of these beliefs. So I focused on the contingency argument because there's different candidates for necessary being. There's a possibility of no necessary being. And then with the necessary being, and it comes to like laws of nature, there's questions about like, are these laws phenomena that we observe based on what is, and therefore like emerge, or is there like a fundamental lawgiver that created these laws either simultaneously to or before these things existed? And I feel like we haven't really moved through
because we're not going to. Because we're never going to. In fact, anybody who claims certainty has their head up their butt.
Well, even I'm trying to establish the reason for the 9 in that context, and I feel like we haven't got there yet.
Well, my point, your reason for the 9?
Yeah. So your 9. To be fair, you said your 9 confidence was about the proposition that God exists. Do you have an independent one specifically for the contingency argument?
Given the one argument that I think I've defended fairly well, as my favorite argument, there's 5 other ones that I also think back up my position, and it would be regarding like essentially different versions of the 5 ways. So I think as a cumulative argument, I think it's extremely rational to believe in a God.
I think you might have missed my question.
It's irrational.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think you missed my question. Let's see. So first, I wanted to know when you said defending. It is not my intention to have you defending anything. If you feel like you have to defend it, it means you feel like I'm attacking it in some way, even if it's just intellectually or logically or whatever. That's not the goal of this. All I want to do is understand. All I want to do is have you explain it to me. So if you feel defensive, that could be on me. And if there's something I did that made you feel attacked or like you needed to defend it, maybe that's on me. So
no, maybe it's on me. I'm kind of a debate bro, so maybe it was on me.
Gotcha. Okay, so what I was asking you though is if the contingency argument itself, if you could give your confidence scale on just the contingency argument part itself, would that still be a 9?
Oh, just that alone. Just that alone. Would I put it as a 9? Okay, no, I would put it at like a 7.
Okay, so if that's a 7, but you have a 9, does that extra 2 points just kind of come from the preponderance of these arguments?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say the other 5 ways in all their different formulations. Yes, I would say that pushes it up another 2 points.
Okay. And I do have 2 other people waiting because I don't want to be unfair to them.
No, I'm sorry. Continue. Thank you for giving me your ear.
Your turn to ask me. I did promise you I'd give you a chance to ask me some questions. I just didn't want to continue asking you because we took a good bit longer than I normally would, but it was really interesting. I was really enjoying it. So
no, I actually enjoyed my time with you. No, like gather up those other people, like have them have their time. You've been nothing but a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much.
Follow me. Come back. We'll do this again sometime.
Yes, sir.
All right. Appreciate you. All right, Skippy Bippy Bo, on up and let me know if you are at least 18 for TikTok purposes.
Yes, I am at least 18.
All right, and Track of All Jades is right after you, so you both have been very patient. I appreciate that. And pronouns or prefer not to say?
I'm he, him.
Cool. And
Your
do you
boy.
have- I'm sorry?
I just said your boy. I
Ya
made a
boy.
joke.
All right.
Yep.
My boy. Or is it still ya boy? Anyway. Okay. Do you have a belief you'd like interviewed tonight?
Yeah, so I am really sympathetic to this philosophical framework called pragmatism.
Okay.
And basically, what pragmatists hold is like, or I guess how I understand or how I interpret the American pragmatist tradition, like the only metric or the best metric of truth is utility. So like they would say that truth and utility are synonymous. So instead of like a coherence model or a cohesive model of truth, the pragmatists would say like, what is useful is what is true. And they reject the idea of a universal observer. So they would say that in order for you to make like statements about fact or like claims, you have to come from a perspective, and that perspective has goals. And so you're going to pick the truth that most thoroughly aligns with your goals, but you can't make truth apt claims that are goal independent. And so because you cannot make truth apt claims that are goal independent, because how they judge truth is how useful it is to your goals, there is like no opportunity for a universal observer, like, or a universal perspective outside of having goals. So like a correspondence theorist of truth would say like there just is a world, and like that world is objective, and you can make statements about that like in principle perfectly align with the world. And pragmatists would say that you would make statements about the world that like align with your goals, but you can't remove your goals from the statements that you make about the world. Does that make any sense?
Well, let's find out. I'm going to repeat it back to you,
Okay.
and you let me know. I also got to get this timer up here. But if I understand you correctly, pragmatism, in your view, as you understand it, is this belief that what is true is what is useful, and that this is sort of the best model given the lack of objective reality, at least in any sense that is goal independent. Is that a fair summary?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, first try. Here we go. All right.
That's good.
Okay. So if something can only be true if it is useful, can you? Let me see. I want to see how far you're willing to take this. Let's say that I have a ball in a box.
Yeah.
And you don't know what color that ball is, but it presumably has some sort of color to it.
Sure.
This ball has no use to you. Knowing what color it is has no use to you. Is its color? Is there a true color to it in the box in this scenario?
I mean, I would say yes, because you want to be a participant in the thought experiment. And that's the goal in which and you want to agree with the other person who's also looking at the ball. But I would say like if there is no observer, so like let's say let's like a hypothetical eternal box that like no one has ever looked inside and you could never know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like does the ball have a color? Like I would say like the ball doesn't have a color until you see it anyways, because the color exists in your brain, not in the ball.
Okay. So yeah, when I say color, I'm referring to like a specific wavelength of light that would be emitted from it after a photon of like full spectrum light hits it.
Yeah. So, I mean, so you would have to have someone there to say that exists.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about like ontological, like, yeah, I'm not worried about existence. I'm worried about what wavelengths, is there a true statement about what wavelengths would come off the ball if there is no utility to this knowledge?
Well, so the utility could just be like satisfying your own curiosity.
Yeah,
Like
in this thought experiment, there is no usefulness. You're not really curious. It means nothing to you whatsoever.
sure, and is there like so is there a sapient person?
Um, Not that can see inside the box, no.
No, not that can see inside the box. So, like, I would say, so what a pragmatist would say. So, also, like, a really fundamental thing about pragmatism is like, um, we test, like, the successfulness of truth is like based on its practical utility. So, like, uh, if the ball was to be colored blue or green, for all practical purposes, there's no difference. Like there is no truth. Like if there is no way to know, um, and you're still making a statement that you can't verify, then whether that statement was true or false, it would functionally be the exact same thing. And so there's no difference between a true or false statement until you look, I guess.
Okay, and but then like once looked, then your statement becomes true or false, or like is that a property that the ball had before you observed it?
Yeah, so once you look, then like maybe your goal is to like align your communication with someone else's communication, or like uh, be able to differentiate the ball from the box or something like that. And yeah, like once you have like a reason to trust your vision, then yeah, you can start making truth claims. But I guess like what pragmatists would say is like it would reject like the metaphysical entailments of like correspondence and just say that like if the ball's red, it's red because saying it's red is the most useful way to describe what the ball is. Not not because of any like metaphysical entailments. I guess it's kind of like deflationary, except I think deflationary goes a little bit further. But yeah, so it would just say like there's no metaphysical tie to the color of the ball. It's just like that's the most useful way to talk about the ball is to say it's red.
Okay, are you making a distinction here between what is actually true and then the value of that truth?
I don't think that's a useful distinction to make. Because again, I don't think there is a universal observer or like a universal perspective. So like the idea of like there like being a capital T truth, like I would have no reason to accept. I would say like I would have no reason to accept a capital T truth, and any capital T truth that I make use of becomes true from my perspective. So, like the fact that I'm functioning from my perspective, anyways, makes it useful to me. So whether or not, like, let's say that the idealists are right, and like capital T truth kind of exists in your consciousness, and your consciousness kind of generates it in some way, or like the core, or like the materialists are right, and like capital T truth exists completely independently, because you can't make any predictions that fit one and not the other that actually affect our lives. Both of those statements are like just not truth apt. Like there is no truth value to those statements
Truth
because there's no
value.
like yeah, well yeah, I mean, or truth aptness. Like they're just not truth apt statements.
Truth apt. Could you define truth apt? I'm new to that phrase.
Yeah, so I would say truth apt is something that can be true or false.
Okay, so let me propose another thought experiment. It's very similar to the first one, but like I'm thinking of observer independent phenomena. So, well, here, surface to vast scattering is a good example. Like, the sun was formed by collapsing gas,
Sure.
dust, etc.
Yeah.
All of that happened here locally.
Yes. Yes.
Where there's no observers. But like when you say truth apt, where you can say like it is either true that the sun formed from this set of elements, or it is
Sure.
false that it formed from that. Was that true in any sense before any life on Earth?
So this is fantastic because a lot of pragmatists are science philosophers. Charles Peirce loved science. William James was a little emotional, but like John Dewey was a science philosopher, and so he would say that like the only reason that we could talk about star formation or say anything intelligible is because it fits the data, not because it's like metaphysically true in some way. And then if we have different data, we change our model of what happened. But like as far as like anything intelligible that you could say about that, you're not saying as like connected to some kind of like state of the universe as absolute or physical. We're saying that because it fits the data, and it's more useful to use models that fit data than use models that don't fit data. And so when we build models, we're not saying that this is how the universe actually works. We're saying that this all ideas are there's this really good idea. All ideas are wrong, or all models are wrong. Some are useful.
Mm-hmm. All models are wrong. Some are useful. Okay, I see.
Yeah, and so that's kind of a rejection of capital T truth.
I see.
That's like we cannot talk intelligently at all about like what actually is happening. What we have is some ideas are more useful than others. And to claim that some ideas have like a metaphysical grasp on us, I think that limits the ideas that humans are allowed to have in ways that become harsh to human existence. Whereas if we're just like, is this idea useful? Does this idea serve shared goals? Regardless saying anything about the metaphysics, does it help us get to where we want to go? I think that's a better metric of like saying truth, even than like correspondence theory, for example. So like, and this is a really benign example. So Bohr's model of the atom, right?
Yes.
It's like you would teach that to like a fifth grader, right?
That's what I learned in fifth grade, but maybe they teach them different now. Maybe it's updated. I don't know.
And then you get to college, and then you get to high school, and you learn like about electron orbitals, and actually the electrons don't work like the Bohr model. Yeah. And then you get to college, and you learn that they're incredibly complicated. Mm-hmm. And so like a correspondence theorist like has to say like we are lying to the 5-year-old, or not to the 5-year-old, but to the fifth grader. Mm-hmm. But a pragmatist gets to say like, no, like it's a useful model for what that child is able to do.
I see.
Like that's the most useful truth that you can give that child in that moment for the goals that both the child and us have. And but a physicist who's like trying to split an atom has different goals. And so they're going to need to make different truth statements dependent on the goals that they have.
I see. So the truth value is very much contingent, like in your view, the truth value of a proposition is contingent upon the utility of that proposition, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And so in science, that utility, because this is where people have issues, but I feel like in science, it feels the most comfortable because, first of all, because a lot of pragmatists were science philosophers, but because you would just say like, yeah, this is what fits the model the best. And as soon as we get new information, we can update our model. So we were never making a statement about like absolute correspondence truth anyways.
I see.
We were making statements about what best fits the data.
We were like prepping the mind for some utility. Can I ask, so given that in your view, there is no capital T truth and what we have are lower T truths that are relative to our purposes, our utility.
Yeah, our goals. Yep.
How do these little truths operate, or I should say, do these truths ever operate in an observer-independent way? Like, are there observer-independent truths?
No, I would say that to make a truth statement, you need an observer.
To make a truth statement, to make the statement. So when you say make a statement, is that more about like the communication of it, the comprehension of it, or like the ontological fact? Are you saying there is no ontological truths without some sort of like perception / communication?
Yeah. So this is a very sloppy example, right? But I'm a mereological nihilist. So like I
have no idea what the fuck that means. Sorry.
So E equals MC squared.
Yes. plus momentum.
So
You want to be
yeah, so that applies to all types of energy, right? Like so matter, the things that we can, like this table, like the reason why I separate the table from the floor, right? You can ask like, is it an observer independent truth that there's a table here? But like the reason why I separate the table from the floor isn't because there's like a metaphysical separation, because the energy that like the electromagnetic energy and the gravity and the particles that make up the table themselves are all the same stuff. Like equals MC squared is like everything in the universe is interchangeable. And when it functions a certain way, we have a name for that. But like unless there's someone to name it, like there's no content to any, like it's like trying to make a truth statement without any content.
I see.
Which I would say is impossible. Like there's not actually a table there. It's a table because it functions as a table and it's in the shape of a table for our purposes. And sometimes I'll sit on the ground and I'll use the bench as my table, and then that's my table. And then sometimes we'll turn big spools that used to hold wires, and that becomes a table. Nothing's metaphysically changed, but just our purposes and how we talk and communicate and the utility of what a table is. It's like, and I think that goes for anything, like why we separate like the asteroids from the space around them. Physics would say that like it's just like slightly more energy is in a different form and function in the asteroid than the space around it,
or more
like,
more in that location in space time, like a
Yeah.
higher density. Well,
Yeah.
that leads me to the question then. So, like, say, etc.
Sure.
These fields and the excitations therein, these are
Sure.
really happening in an observer-independent way, in some way, right?
Yeah, I mean they totally could be, but I don't think you could say anything intelligent about them without a perspective. Like it seems like if they exist in an observer independent way and a non-observer is saying something about them, I don't think anything intelligible or meaningful, because again, we would say that like what is useful is what is true. But if there's no use because there's no person, like I would say like there's no, like, is there someone to judge the truthfulness? Is there someone that if it was false, it would affect in some way? Like,
Yeah.
I just don't know what truth would be doing without someone to have that perspective. Like to a photon, right? Reality looks completely different to us.
Yeah, no
But
time.
yeah, and so their experience of causation is super different. But we're not moving at light speed. So we don't need to ground our experience by a photon because we don't have that experience. And so yeah, I would say I would say yeah, there could be like some like objective, like physically grounded world, but if you want to say anything about it or make a truth statement, then you enter into the realm of being an observer. And if you want to make an observer independent statement, I don't think that's possible.
Okay.
I think to make a statement at all, there has to be an observer.
All right, I want to repeat back to you to make sure I'm tracking.
Sure, I'm rambling. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. You're saying that like ontologically, there's some existence that could be there that is observer independent, such as these fields, or somewhere right now in the universe, a supernova is happening and it's pushing that
Sure.
gas out and it's setting up gravitational waves and stuff that will affect the collapse of some other cloud and then a new planet civilization.
Sure.
Now, then we'll have some observers. And that could be happening, or that's, in your view is consistent with that happening in an observer-independent way. But when it comes to like intelligibility, making statements about it, understanding it, none of these are going to, those factors, none of those can happen without some kind of personal interest.
Yes, and so there's a couple, cash, like there's a couple ways to cash out this. So like for example, if you believe in God, right? So like if you want like to put like a model of reality that presupposes a divine being, I would say like the only statements that like we can make about that divine being are the statements that would be different otherwise. Like, yeah, I guess you can believe that he upholds reality, but like there's no way that like a different model that has the same explanatory power, you would have the same predictions, and then you would have the same technology and physics and things like that. And so, like, whether or not God exists, I don't think has a truth value to that question, because it doesn't seem like it makes any difference in any practical way. And again, pragmatists would use that practical application as the only metric for truth. And so, because there's no practical cashing out of those metaphysical questions, they're just unintelligible. They're just nonsense. So Richard Rorty would like be like, they are like linguistic games that we play to make sense of our own experiences.
Okay.
But these linguistic games are built on language that we've built to support our own linguistic games, which is why I'm very skeptical of like a priori arguments, because like, yeah, we get to define the terms to make the arguments work. Like, yeah, you can say stuff a priori, and also we get to define what these terms mean and what coherence means, and and because there's no way to like empirically look at these things, or like they don't cash out in any real way, like they're not truth claims.
Yeah, there's no meaningful truth claim there. Okay, so I want to stop here and get to the next guest. I took extra time with you as well because I found this really interesting. One thing that I found really interesting about it is that, like, at first, like, when I'm doing street epistemology, it's not my job to tell you I agree or disagree. And with most guests, I won't even do that, just because I don't want to single anyone out or make them feel like I'm preaching, ridiculing, or bashing them. But I feel like I can tell you that, like, at first I was kind of resistant to what you're saying. I'm like, oh, damn, this guy's saying there is no real true reality unless it's observed. This is going to be like one of those quantum, the double slit experiment, and my consciousness affects it, that sort of thing. And so I kind of was like, oh, here we go. But as I asked you questions and elucidating it, this isn't just about you reevaluating your beliefs. This is also about me evaluating your beliefs. And I actually found, like, the statement that, like, yes, there's some ontological observer independent reality, but when I want to say something is true, I need to account for the personal interest of the species developing this concept of truth. And I actually agree with that. And I like that very much. And I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate for engaging with me.
Cool. Well, another awesome conversation down. I appreciate you coming up. Follow me. Let's do it again. And I'm going to bring the next guest up. But thank you for coming up.
Yep. Bye.
It was fun. This is so much more fun than debate, right? Like, I understand. Yeah, there's a time where you just want to, like, stick it to someone that doesn't think like you. And that feels good. And there's a time for that. And I think it is important for third parties to watch bad ideas get wrecked in debate. Don't get me wrong. But this space, I don't know, I find a lot more value in just letting people share their beliefs, hearing it back, considering it themselves. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so you've waited long enough, Track of All Jades. If you're not 18, then that was a waste of time.
I'm definitely 18, yeah.
All right. And pronouns or prefer not to say?
Oh, he, him is fine.
Okay, and do you have a belief you would like interviewed tonight?
Sure. I'd say I'm pretty close to your last guest. I'm also a mereological nihilist. I would say I'm also an epistemic nihilist, but definitely a lot less read or knowledgeable, and probably a lot less interesting than the last guy. But I'm happy to talk about it.
Well, hey, yeah, we're not gonna have an interesting competition, but okay. So you want to present the same belief and kind of go through your own interview on it?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I guess I am curious. You said you're agnostic atheist.
Ooh, do we want to take this opportunity to ask me some questions and okay, hear me out. I don't want to just do street epistemology for the sake of getting people to reevaluate their beliefs. I also want to teach people how to do this. So can I teach you how to do street epistemology?
Sure, man.
Cool.
Sounds
and then
fun.
You can apply it to me. And then I'll kind of just stop and give pointers. This should be fun. So what I'll do is I'll state a belief. You ask me questions about it. First of all, any answer I give you or anything I tell you, repeat it back to me in your own words. And I will tell you if you caught it right. If like, for example, sometimes a theist will say miracle to me, and I'm not going to be like, okay, so these coincidences. You see what I mean? Like I used like an assumptive phrase to like invalidate their beliefs. Like repeat back to me in your own words, but like steel man me. And I go, yep, bingo, you got it. Then ask me a question about it. We rinse and repeat. One thing I struggle with is I step on the pause. So if I'm answering you, but then I pause, let that pause linger. And that's hard. It's hard. It's really hard for me, but let it go. Even if it means I'm going to keep talking and you might lose me a bit, you can always ask questions to get us back on track. So you want to do that?
Sure.
Cool. Well, I believe the universe is eternal.
Have you ever considered the Grim Reaper paradox?
I'm not familiar with it. Could you share it with me?
Yeah. Oh boy. I don't know if I can do it justice, but I'll try. Basically, it's the idea there's some guy, Jim, who's alive at 12 o'clock noon.
Okay.
And at 12:01, there's Grim Reaper who is supposed to come and unalive him. But the only way that he would unalive him is if the Grim Reaper that came right before him did not unalive him. The Grim Reaper that came right before him came at 12:01 minus 1 second, or minus 1 millisecond. And that Grim Reaper is the same as the original one. He will unalive Jim if the Grim Reaper before him did not unalive Jim. So, and then we have an infinite regress of Grim Reapers. Oh, so it's not 12:01 minus 1 millisecond. It's
Why don't we do this?
And
how about we just look it up together? Let's look it up together. You see that?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so we're gonna go Grim Reaper thought experiment eternal regress.
Yeah, causal finitism.
All right, so we got blogs, we got Stack. The Stack Exchange is pretty well operated. So let's go here. Grim Reaper paradox. For those unaware, Alexander Proust and others developed this paradox to show that an infinite regress is impossible. I'll link his explanation to the paradox here. So there we go. We found a secondary source, brought us to a primary source. A version of it. A Grim Reaper is a being that has the following properties. It wakes up at a time between 8 and 9 a.m., both exclusive. And if you're alive, it instantaneously unalives you. And if you're not alive, it doesn't do anything. Suppose there are countably infinitely many Grim Reapers, and before they go to bed for the night, each sets his alarm for a time, not necessarily the same time as the other Reapers, strictly between 8 and 9 a.m. Suppose also that no other kind of unalivement is available for you, and that you're not going to be resurrected that day. You're going to be unalived at 9 a.m., or having been unalived at 9 a.m., dislived. Since as long as at least one Grim Reaper wakes up during that time period, you're guaranteed to be unalived. Now, whether there is a paradox here depends on how the Grim Reapers individually set their alarm clocks. Suppose now that they set them in such a way that the following proposition P is true. So this is the proposition. For every time T later than 8 a.m., at least one of the Grim Reapers woke up strictly between 8 a.m. and T. If the Grim Reapers choose their alarm clock times independently and uniformly over the 8 to 9 a.m. interval, then the probability of that proposition is 1. Now, if the proposition is true, then no Grim Reaper unalives you. For suppose that a Grim Reaper who wakes up at some time T1 later than 8 a.m. unalives you. If P is true, there is a Grim Reaper who woke up strictly between 8 a.m. and T1, say at T0. But if so, then you're going to be unalived right after T0, and hence the Grim Reaper who woke up at T1 is not going to do anything since you're unalive by then. Hence, if the proposition is true, no Grim Reaper unalives you. On the other hand, I've shown that it is certain that a Grim Reaper unalives you. It is certain. Okay, so I guess what I've got to look at here is this probability is 1, like where this certainty comes from. Because the proposition is assumed. At least for any time T, at least one has woken up. Okay, so there is a certainty. Hence And so Grim Reaper woke up at T1 is not going to do anything since you're unalive then. Hence, if the proposition is true, no Grim Reaper unalives you. On the other hand, I've shown that it is certain that you've already been unalived. Hence, if the proposition is true, then no Grim Reaper unalives you, and a Grim Reaper unalives you, which is absurd. Okay, so I think I got a grasp on this, and I will see if our understandings comport with each other. You're saying that you're guaranteed that at least one will wake up between T0 and T1 in this proposition. So this proposition kind of enforces this truth. The proposition says there is definitely you are going to be, one is going to wake up at T0 and unalive you no matter what. And so at T1, the Grim Reaper wakes up, doesn't unalive you because you're already unalived. But then he's saying that it's true at the same time that one unalived you and one, then no Grim Reaper unalives you and a Grim Reaper unalives you, and there's a contradiction. I think that contradiction arises outside of the proposition, though, right? Because you're saying it's true at the same time that you haven't been unalived, but it's true that you have been unalived. But you definitely have been unalived by the first time it wakes up, which is any time between T0 and T1, which could be a millisecond after. All this tells me is that you're definitely unalived. I don't see the contradiction. Maybe I'm missing something.
The point is like it's between 8 and 9. By the time you get to 9 o'clock, you will have definitely unalived because all of the Grim Reapers have set their alarm for some time between 8 and 9. The problem is there's infinitely many Grim Reapers. So for any Grim Reaper that wakes up, there has already been one that woke up before it. So none of the Grim Reapers will unalive you because there's a Grim Reaper that existed before then that would have unalived you had you been alive at that time. I can't hear you right now. I don't know if there's a mic issue. Can anybody in chat hear him?
Can you hear me? Oh, okay.
Oh,
I think
now I can.
I was muted. I'm sorry about that. I'm having trouble seeing the contradiction because, like, if I see let me bring this back up. The problem here is that given this proposition, it's saying that at least one of the Grim Reapers wakes up strictly between 8 a.m. and T. So let's say 8 a.m. is T0. T1 is 8 a.m. in 5 trillionths of a second. Let's say that's the unit of time that ticks. At that point, the Grim Reaper unalives you because you're not unalived, right?
Right, but there's a Grim Reaper that came at a time before then, so they would have unalived you had you been alive at that time.
Oh, I'm proposing a unit of time that is discrete. I suppose this experiment depends on a continuous time.
So it's an infinite regress of time.
Right. So there's no discrete time periods because there's like always a smaller fraction, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then how does this map onto asking me about the universe? Like how do we take this thought experiment and apply it to the eternal I mean, you're sorry, you're asking me questions. Go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, it's just like um, similar to this Grim Reaper uh, paradox. If we have an infinite regress, kind of like the two guys ago was talking about, if we have an infinite regress of causal chains, then that kind of induces a paradox because we will have simultaneously existed at this point and also never have been able to exist at this point.
When you say we, are you referring to?
Like t equals 0
Yeah, but when you say we,
right now.
like you're talking about quarks, gluons, or something more foundational?
Oh, just like us observing in the time that we're at now.
Okay. So since you're asking me, I think that observers are a later creation of the universe, not one that would be like foundational.
You think the universe was created?
No, I think the universe is eternal. That's the belief you're asking me about.
Sorry, you believe the things in the universe are created.
Yeah, I think there is contingency, and I think there's emergence. I would posit a infinite regress of contingency.
I see. Yeah, I guess if we have an infinite regress of contingency, I guess that's kind of what the Grim Reaper paradox is going for. Is if you have an infinite regress, then you have something that relies on the thing that came before it, and we would never be able to get to the point to now where the things that we have in this time exist because the things that they would have relied on never came to fruition because they would have to rely on the thing before them and the thing before them.
Okay. So, and I understand you're explaining this for the sake of asking a more accurate question, right? So, do you have like a specific question given this clarification for me?
I guess I'm curious if you see a contradiction in that.
I do not.
If you see the contradiction that the Grim Reaper paradox lays out.
I don't, in that I don't know how I would map that onto like what I would conceive of as an infinite regress. Like in the thought experiment, there's like a binary state, for example. A binary state that's contingent upon other binary states, but with the confounding factor of there not being like a possible unit or a discrete unit of action. I do think that in my model of eternal universe, that there are discrete modes or there are discrete actions. So this thought experiment wouldn't apply to my view.
What do you mean when you say discrete?
Good question. Discrete means like there's like a unit and you can't go smaller than that. It's like an indivisible unit, or like just like a set unit, a set amount. Continuous is there's no real line you can draw on it anywhere. A good example would be like temperature is continuous, right? Like you just go up and down that temperature scale just on the amount of energy in this enclosed space or whatever. And then like a discrete would be like money, like counting money. Like there's 1 cent, 2 cent. You don't do like half a cent when you're counting the change. You have these discrete values. So when I talk about like discrete cause, I'm talking about like things like the speed of causation, right? Which is commonly called the speed of light. That there is there are discrete actions that happen in that like this thought experiment that creates this other kind of infinite regression doesn't occur in the context of like time because we have like this finite speed.
Okay. Do you think that there's discreteness in time? Do you think there's a smallest unit of time?
In the same way that there's a smallest unit of space, yes.
Would you prescribe to like monads
No, I don't. I don't think so. No, not to my knowledge. You're talking about like I've only discussed monads in the context of souls. So
Okay. I just my understanding is it's like the smallest possible thing that makes up everything. Kind of like strings for string theory. So would you say that like physical, like you could only cut an atom in half so many times, like a finite amount of times?
okay,
Is that your position?
good question. I'd say so when it comes to fields. Like if I'm going to describe a field, I would consider a field as continuous, not discrete. But when it comes to like energy thresholds for action, such as electromagnetic, what's the word I'm looking for? Not pulse, but an electromagnetic moment in space and time. Like there are thresholds there. The field is continuous, but there are thresholds for actual action. Now, when it comes to like dividing atoms and stuff, like fundamental particles, I'm not convinced there is a bottom. I'm not convinced that there is like a limit to the size that things can be. But when we talk about a particle, that like makes our world, like an electromagnetic particle, like an electron, that is going to have some kind of finite size. And where string theory does this is you look at like the frequency of vibration along that one-dimensional string. And that frequency has it has a frequency to it. There's amplitude and frequency. There's a finite or defined frequency.
Okay. So I guess correct me if I'm misinterpreting. Are you saying that you do think that there's kind of like a discrete size to like atoms, like if you cut an atom in half,
Yes.
or if you cut an electron in half?
I think the electron has a set size, and I think the atom has a set size, and that these sizes manifest as material properties.
So how do you contend with like, and I very lightly know about this, but like when we observe electrons, how you can either know its like velocity or you can know its mass.
Right.
You can't know both at the same time. So
not velocity
how
and
do you
mass,
Is
velocity
it
and position.
direction?
Position.
Position.
Yeah. You can see where it's
Oh.
going or where it is, but not like both. Or the degree to which you know one is the degree to which you can't know the other. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, forget I said that then. I was thinking of mass, but we do know how much electrons weigh.
Yeah. Yeah. There's atomic weights, atomic numbers, and stuff like that. So yeah, there's discrete things there. But like this is like because when we talk about information flow, like in order to get information about something, there has to be an energy exchange, is what that's saying. So like in order for me to measure something, I need something that has touched it to come touch my instrument, and the touching of it changes it in some way. And it changes it such that the information I get from the change is either going to tell me about its velocity, or it's going to tell me about its position, or some combination of the both, some inverse relationship.
That's cool. I guess I'm struggling to try to find an angle because I pretty much agree with you on everything that I've heard you talk about. So
yeah, that's when it's extra hard
yeah.
to ask questions when you agree, because it's like, oh man, I agree, but for different reasons, and I haven't thought about it this way before, and it's tough. It is tough. I respect you for trying though. Like yeah, for me, like I have to like share my view on when I say like I think the universe is eternal. That can be like temporally eternal, where like time itself goes back, just because like the concept of before time makes no sense to my intuitions. But then there's also contingency that is relational or structural. like for example, two atoms, right? Like sodium and chlorine coming together to form salt. And it's not so much important about like the time it took for that, for them to fall to a lower energy state. But it is just the fact that if they exist together in the same space and time, then we get salt. So like maybe the universe has some kind of structural contingency that is just about what it is. I don't think I'm being very clear about it, but I'm saying that like maybe there's some functional or structural arrangement that is necessary or inherent to the universe, and that all the contingencies kind of flow from that. I don't know if maybe time emerged. Again, I don't know about A theory or B theory of time, which one of those is true. I play with the idea. When I gave you my belief, a good thing to do is to ask me about my level of confidence. Because it might not be that I know one way or another. It's that I might be like 100% sure it's eternal, but then after evaluating it, I find out, okay, maybe I'm only about 70% sure that it's eternal, because maybe my reasons aren't as reliable as I thought. See what I'm saying there?
Yeah. I mean, do you think people can honestly have 100% confidence in anything?
Oh, I subscribe to Gödel's incompleteness theorem. I think that there's a formal incompleteness that's sort of baked into our understanding, that we can never know anything 100% certain. But I do also believe in falsification, and as long as the premises of the deductive argument are sound, then you can be 100% certain in that conclusion. But again, that certainty is indexed to the quality of the premises. So like if I can make a certain prediction, like if this is true, then this cannot be true, right? I have that null hypothesis, then I can be 100% certain that that I can reject that null hypothesis. But I can always revisit my premises and find something wrong in there and go, oh, okay, I need a new experiment.
Yeah, I guess that kind of induction is also kind of relying on like the uniformity of nature.
Induction, yeah. I was talking about deduction. Induction is more about probabilities.
I see. That makes sense. Yeah. I don't know. I definitely agree. I don't think we can really know things. I think I forget who it was. But there's like different kinds of knowledge, and I think maybe I could know that I have a certain mental state that I like am thinking about something, but yeah, beyond that, I don't think that we have access to truth in any kind of meaningful way.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. I think that our observations are limited to the tools that we use to make them, to make certainty. I'm a big fan of confidence intervals. But hey, I really enjoyed this. I'm going to go to the next guest, but thank you so much for coming up, and I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Alrighty. Okay, I've got one more guest here. I probably don't have too much more time because at some point I got to go pick up my wife from a friend's house. So, okay, welcome, Nicholas. And before we begin, can I make sure you're at least 18?
Yep, 41.
Sick. Pronouns or prefer not to say?
He, I guess.
Okay, cool. And do you have a belief you would like interviewed tonight?
Theology or Christian?
Ooh, okay. Do you want to go like God belief or Christianity, or say God belief in general or Christianity in particular?
Either one, but we could go on the God.
Yeah, I think the more foundational one is usually more interesting because it's like evaluating that one as sort of like the foundation of the other. You kind of get both at once when you do it that way.
Sure.
Okay, so just to explain to you what this is about, with street epistemology, this isn't a debate. This is not me trying to convince you that your beliefs are wrong. This is me asking questions. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. I'm not here to ridicule you for having any beliefs or anything like that. I just want to understand them, and I want you to understand them a little better. I want us both walking away from this conversation feeling like we both understand something about your beliefs that we didn't before. And if I attack you or attack your ideas, you're going to feel defensive, and then you're going to spend less time evaluating them and more time defending them. And that doesn't help anybody, right?
Yeah, I've been listening for a little while, and it's been great.
Cool.
So,
Well, then you know about the countdown. So I'm going to go ahead and put that up here. And like I say this to all the guests, the timer is not like definite. The only definite timing is when my wife calls and says, "Come pick me up." But we can keep talking after, but I want to respect your time. Okay. You believe God exists, and specifically the God of the Bible, correct?
yes.
Okay. If you were to rate your confidence and how sure you are that God exists from a scale of 0 to 10, or I'll say 1 to 10, 1 being, I'm just kind of throwing things out there. I have no certainty.
10.
And then 10 is like, I will never be dissuaded. I am 100% sure. Where are you in between there?
10, although I'm sure somebody could drug me up and make me say things that I'm not willing to wouldn't say.
I see. All right. So you're a 10 for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you, is there anything real or imagined, like this is a thought experiment here, is there anything that you could come to know in reality that would potentially drop that 10, say, to a 9, 8, 7?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Can I ask how you came to obtain the certainty?
Through a lifetime of looking into it.
Okay. So is this, if I understand you correctly, the reason you're so certain is because you've been looking at it for a long time. Is this like a preponderance of evidence, or is this like one particular bit of evidence that you've tested over and over?
Preponderance of evidence and
Okay.
experiences, and scientific evidence is, personal experiences, let's say, both all encompassing.
Okay. If I were to identify which of these factors has a stronger impact on your certainty, would it be the scientific arguments, or would it be the personal experience arguments in terms of like what is true about the world?
I think they go hand in hand.
Well, sure. But is there one that like is maybe a little more, just a little bit?
That's an impossible question, because
Let
I'm
me ask you
saying
a better
science.
one.
I would say scientifically, because at that point you could change my emotions and brain waves and think again differently, or the universe just wouldn't be the same, right? And now we're talking in a whole different walls or whatever.
Let me ask it a different way. If for some reason scientifically you found that science actually didn't say that God existed at all, would the personal experience still keep you at that 10?
Yeah, and I think vice versa as well. To the extent that you could play it out without changing reality too much for me. Which,
Okay.
Again, is kind of,
So then I kind of have to decide what I'm going to ask about. If I'm going to ask about the scientific or I want to ask about the personal. For me, the personal is more difficult because, I would ask you, this is your experience. I'd ask you about how you interpret the experience and what methods you use and stuff. I'm more versed personally in scientific exploration. I'm a data scientist, but former Christian as well, with my own personal story. So I can go either way. How would you feel about being asked about the scientific side of it?
I would also agree with you. In the beginning, you got to have common ground, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so what is, in your mind, the strongest bit of scientific evidence? Like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think ironclad scientific evidence for God?
I'm still kind of all encompassing here, but I would say the first would be the first thing that we have evidence of from the Big Bang, which would be the CMB.
Mm-hmm.
And if you map that CMB out, you get what's called the axis of evil in cosmology, which is a direction of the universe, and we're perfectly aligned with it.
Okay, and how does this get us to God?
it shows that we're in an isotropic universe rather than or anisotropic universe rather than an isotropic universe, which means that whatever was before the CMB had a direction or a purpose.
Direction or purpose. Okay.
Sorry, you go.
Okay. Interesting. First of all, the timer is out. If you'd like to stop here, we can. But if you'd like to continue, we can as well. What would you like to do?
Oh, I'm good. I'm fine.
All right. Let's see if I. I'm hitting my microphone here. Let's see if I can get rid of it. Oh, there it goes. All right. Sweet. All right. So you said that it is the anisotropic nature of the universe in that it's not the same everywhere. There's at least an axis of rotation. And because there's an axis of rotation, that the universe has a purpose. Is that correct?
It's a lot more complicated than that. The universe actually has if you just look at the CMB mapping alone and you'd come to the conclusion that it's anisotropic. At least as to Earth, which we're on Earth, so. But it's not just that it's spinning. What's that?
Are you saying it's like an anthropic view? In other words, like the anisotropy appears because of our location on Earth, or did I miss you on something?
It's that the direction that we're moving is the same direction that the CMB's map is moving, unlike 99.9% of all other planets or stars or whatnot out there.
Okay. If I understand you correctly, you're saying that Earth occupies. Good night, Crystal. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate that. You're saying that Earth occupies this unique. I got another head mustache. Thank you, man. Oh, it's gone. All right. All right. So you're saying though, but Earth occupies this special place, along with maybe 1% of the universe, where the direction that Earth is moving is the same direction as the anisotropic direction of the CMB?
Well, no, but yes. That's not what anisotropic means. Anisotropic just means that it's not completely uniform.
Yeah, I know.
Isotropic, yeah,
I know. And yeah, so, but you said that there's like a direction in the CMB revealed through this anisotropy.
Yeah, so if you give me a half a minute here, imagine your room filling up with gas, and then little heat bubbles start forming, and there's some big ones over here to your left, and there's littler ones over to your right, and there's teeny tiny ones down below or something. If you map out how much like gravitational pull and stuff they have with them, you can point little point little arrows, and then if you take all of those arrows together, you get the quadrupoles and octupoles, and it again kind of lines up with the direction that we're going. So we're the very, very first piece of evidence that we have is that we're special to the universe, at least to a degree. That is, it's actually, I believe, I'd have to relook it up, but it's also based off of,
So what does it mean for the Earth to be moving in a direction relative to the universe? Like, does the universe have an absolute frame of reference?
Frame of reference? I don't think so.
Right, because is movement relative between two things?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess.
And so when I say the Earth's movement relative to the universe as a whole, what does it mean to have movement between the Earth and the universe if there's no absolute frame for the universe or the CMB?
I think I'm lost in what you're saying there.
Okay, so I asked you if the universe, or we'll even say the CMB, has an absolute frame of reference. You said no.
What do you mean by well? What does that mean? Absolute frame of reference? We can map it out and we put it on a little map,
right?
And we can reference that map and see which we can draw lines, and then yeah.
Sure. Between all the things, to use your room example, you said we can draw lines between all the things in the room, and thereby kind of find these relative motions inside the room. But in this example, you're saying the room itself and the Earth has a relative motion between the two.
Kind of. We're moving in the same direction as if you were to draw a bunch of arrows and take the bigger arrow and the smaller arrow and make a ultimate direction out of the universe. We're going that same way.
Okay, so you're saying that rather than having this absolute reference frame of the universe, everything inside the universe has relative motions with each other, and we can find like a general motion that everything is moving in? Is that what you're saying?
In our observable universe, we can see that, you can point a direction toward, and we're following that. If you went, 100 light years to some other galaxy, it would not be the same as what we're doing. So it's not like where we're located. And if you're located somewhere else, you'd see the same exact thing.
So this isn't about the entire universe itself. You're talking about our observable universe. And within our observable universe, within our local sort of area of the larger universe, most things in our observable universe are moving in the same direction.
No, but yes. Yeah. Okay. So yes, they ultimately would all move in the direction with us. So in the observable universe is kind of all we know. We don't really know what is past. It could be more, planets and solar systems and whatnot. But we don't know. But what we do know is, yes, everything in our observable universe, if there wasn't anything outside there affecting it, gravitationally pulling it one direction or the other over, the next billion years or something like that, something we can't, we have no evidence for, then yes, we would be going in the same direction as all of the rest of the mass of the universe, or the observable universe.
All right. So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that when we look at the CMB from the perspective of our observable universe, one side of it is just a little bit warmer than the other side, which tells us that we're moving more in one direction than the other, sort of as a whole. And but Earth itself is moving in a different direction, and that this is distinct from 99% of everything else in the observable universe. Is that correct?
No, it's moving in the right direction. It's already pointed in the correct direction. It's not going to. It doesn't need. It's going straight to where the mass of everything else is going, rather than the other galaxies hundreds of light years away that could be going a little left or a little right or whatnot.
So you're saying other galaxies which are within our observable universe, most of what's in our observable universe isn't moving in the direction of that, like dipole anisotropy?
Yeah.
And like your Earth is sort of like unique in this?
And I believe it's more than 1 in 100. I'd have to relook it up again. theory, and you can pull it up. I'm not an astrophysicist, so it might be just say hi like you did with the other guy.
Okay.
Have you seen the map before, the CMBR map?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's called Axis of Evil. It's got a horrible name. It sounds religious.
Yeah, no, I understand that it's because physicists are struggling with it.
But that would be the first one, and so I could move on to something else.
Well, no, I do want to ask. So, like, we can tell that Earth is moving in the direction based on the temperature, and then we can see how everything else is moving. So these other galaxies and the planets in them, they're all moving in a different direction than Earth?
More than 100 are, yeah. So we would be 1 in 100 moving in the direction that.
So let's visualize. I'm going to try to visualize. We have like the cosmic web. Okay, we've just got cosmic web everywhere. Now here is this one strand of the web. Here's this one sort of filament, this cosmic filament. And in our observable universe, we only get to see like our filament and maybe a couple others before we lose access to the light. And then in this filament, stuff is kind of coming down, pushing, pulling, swirling. And you're saying that only this one bubble of this one filament we're in, of like 100 galaxies, right? Like a cluster of galaxies or supercluster of galaxies, is moving in this one direction, but everything else is kind of moving differently, in a different direction?
Yeah, to a certain degree.
Now, if I were on a planet, on a galaxy outside of that bubble, would I see the same thing? Would I be able to say the same thing about the planet I'm on?
No.
Why not?
Because you would be on one of the other planets that don't have that.
Wait, let me clarify. If I'm on that planet and I'm moving in some direction,
perfect direction.
I'm going to see a different warm area in the CMB, right?
You could be in the really warm area, and there's too much warm for. What do you mean?
Okay, so the reason one part of the CMB looks warmer than the other is a feature. This isn't street epistemology anymore. I gotta get off that. Let me ask you. I'll ask it this way. Why is one portion of the CMB warmer than the other from our perspective?
Could you pull the map up on the screen?
Oh snap!
Just type in.
Go.
You gotta go. Okay,
Yeah,
you're good.
Give me a follow. I want to continue. This is very interesting. And I'll leave you with that question, maybe because you said you don't know. I'll ask you why one area of the CMB looks warmer than the other from our perspective. And I'm asking you, if I was in a different galaxy moving in a different direction, would a different area of the CMB look warmer from that perspective? I'll leave you with that question. Everyone, thank you guys for coming. Crystal showed up and got me $3 tonight, which, guys, the most I've ever made from a live before was 5 cents. And I thought that was a big deal. So seeing this at almost $3 is astounding to me. I'm not doing this for the money. Good. Be very much, but just the fact that it's there is warming the cockles of my heart. And in the words of Dennis Leary, maybe below the cockles, maybe in the subcockal area, maybe in the liver, maybe in the kidneys, maybe even in the colon. We don't know. But thank you for joining me tonight, everyone. Give me a follow. Let's keep doing this. And January 16th, so a week from today, on Friday, 7 p.m. Central Time, I will be on Truth Wanted on YouTube. Look up Truth Wanted. They're also on Spotify and any other platform that does podcasts. 7 p.m. Central Time, live on Truth Wanted. And I'm excited for that. See you all there.